Happy Monday, crafty friends. Hope you've got your coffee in hand and you're ready to face the world. I know I am, I think. I've had a great and productive weekend. Not surprisingly, I've been, quilting, and it's just been a great, great weekend in the studio. And by the way, my studio is Stitched by Susan. I'm Susan Smith. My long arm is named Lucy, and she and I love to make beautiful music together. So I'm a quilt maker, but in particular, I am a long arm quilter. And so that's kind of my focus of these morning shows. And this morning I'm going to show a design, draw out a design for you that you might want to use on your machines. So I'll give you a little time to maybe get a pencil and paper handy if you want to work on sketching it out. And I'll chat with you a couple minutes while you do that. So while I'm here, if you're interested in seeing more of these shows, don't forget to subscribe. There will be a little link below. And if you click on the little bell for notifications, then you will get a little buzz, or I'm not sure what kind of notification you get. But anyway, YouTube will notify you whenever I have a new live episode out. And we're trying to do these every Monday morning. So there will be a little quilting related episode every Monday morning. So let me get on my soapbox for just half a second here talking about quilting. I'm a great believer in all over edge-to-edge designs. And if you want to see some of the ones that I do, I keep a Pinterest account and I keep a board there called My Gallery Edge to Edge. And on that board, I update it from time to time. Not everything is on there because that would take a lot of time, but there's a lot of my edge-to-edge work on there. And to me, there's an edge-to-edge design for every quilt. And I acknowledge that I'm on a soapbox. I know there are people that are just totally dedicated to custom quilting because they feel like that makes a quilt more special and kind of represents all the hours and hard work and craftiness that they put into it. But to me, a good overall design adds the third dimension of texture without overtaking a quilt, right? So I'm not necessarily a fan of, certainly not of the giant stipple, but also not necessarily of pictorial things like putting zebras on quilts or baseball gloves. Not that there isn't a place for that, but when I talk about an overall edge-to-edge design, I usually just mean one that lays down a layer of texture. And so it's not the first thing that catches your eye necessarily when you look at a finished quilt. It just adds that element of texture to the quilt. And usually I'm thinking through it to think, how will this wash and wear as well, right? Because you want that texture to be there for a lifetime. Not to be the first thing you see, but to add beauty to the quilt. So in that light, today I'm going to show you an edge-to-edge design. I had actually a request from a viewer last week that wanted to see this one, how I work it out as I'm stitching it. And so let's see if we can get all our little technical bits going together today. I'm going to draw it out for you on the iPad and you'll be able to see it nice and big on your screen and you can practice along if you will. Oh yes, my husband is reminding me, the producer in the background. I've got to show you pictures of what I'm going to do before we get started. Okay, so this design is called a chrysanthemum, not surprisingly, and if you look closely you can see the centers of the flowers in that photograph. So on this quilt, this was a baby quilt, and as you can see, it's uber simple. It is just strips of fabric. The maker chose some really cute prints and a polka dot that goes with it, and she just put strips next to each other. We added the texture of quilting over top, and it made this lovely finished little baby quilt that she needed in a real hurry. So it all came together, it ticked all those boxes, right? But you can see how this design just adds texture, and you can imagine when this gets washed the first time how beautifully that's going to crinkle up and give kind of that old-fashioned textural look that, in my opinion, is a wonderful thing about a quilt. So in the next photograph, we'll give you a close-up of the chrysanthemum flower. See how simple that is? But I do have a few tips and pointers for you that will make it not disappoint you when you go to quilt it out. So here we go. Okay, we're all set. So this is just my personal preference. I start in the upper right-hand corner of the quilt, so that's how you'll see me drawing. You can start certainly in the left. I suppose you could start in the center. That's not very easy to move around your quilt, but I start in the upper right-hand corner. So first I just make a simple swirl like this. Oh, sorry, Dave's telling me move away from my picture. He's so right. I'll start in just a little further so you can see better. Here we go. So simple swirl. And then I put 3 or 4 good-sized petals around it. Well, look at that. I'm going to do 5 because they fit. However many fit comfortably, but at least 3. And then I work my way back. And here's where I have one of the tips for you. Notice that when I am coming in to these points, I'm aiming directly at the chrysanthemum. So you do not want to do this number, coming in it at a slant. Do you see that? I want to be coming in it straight on here. This will start to look relaxed and sloppy. So let's back that up. If only undoing quilting was this easy, am I right? So we're just going to put some more petals of the chrysanthemum on, always aiming straight in, basically toward the center. Do you see that? Each of the petals is basically aiming toward the center of the chrysanthemum. Now, you can go around it as many times as you wish. I always do 2 or 3. If you're in a tight corner, right, you can do fewer, but you can do 4 or 5 or 6 repeats to fill up a goodly area with this chrysanthemum. And when you decide that you're happy with it, and I'll just make an edge to our quilt here so we've got kind of a corner to work against, then you just come out and make another swirl and launch into another one. And it's just that simple. So this to me is the most important, is that these petals all point toward the center when they're landing on the chrysanthemum. If you need to get out of a corner, as I do here, I'll just echo a little bit closer until I get out, and I might start another one right here because I think that looks more graceful than echoing or squeezing in too tightly. And I'll just quilt a little minute so you can kind of see how I move around. And if this were the edge of my quilt, I might just go right to the edge of it, travel along, and in my mind's eye, I'd say, oh, another one would come down here. Do you see that? And this will be trimmed off in the edge of my quilt, and that will look seamless. And launching into another one. And that's how it's done. That is the chrysanthemum. So you can kind of see, again, this is something that I always do when I'm doing edge-to-edge quilting. I've started in this area of my quilt, right? And I work in a kind of, I hope that you can see this while there are chrysanthemums on here. Maybe I'll change my color. There we go. I work in a kind of diagonal fashion. I didn't manage to change the color. Across my quilt. So again, I'm in a small area, so that's not showing up super clearly, but you saw how I did this chrysanthemum in the corner, right? I'm going to erase a few things. And after I finished it, then I worked this chrysanthemum here and worked my way across here, and I would keep doing that across my quilt top so that I didn't get my chrysanthemums sitting in a row, stacked one upon another. Now we're getting some serious scribbles. But you follow my train of thought, right? It will look more graceful if you, hang on a second here. Susan does not know what she has done. I hope you got the chrysanthemum sketched. But once again, on my train of thought, it will look more graceful if you manage to put your chrysanthemums kind of angling across your quilt top as you go. You don't want them to look like a bunch of soldiers in a row, right? So back to my soapbox for just a second. I really do think that there is a textural edge to edge that is suitable for nearly every quilt. So whether you want the soft little round puckers that we have on this one, whether you want something that has straight lines or boxes or more geometric shapes, all of that is negotiable. You can think that through for every taste, for every color, for every age group even that you're making a quilt for. I feel like there's something appropriate. There are, of course, reasons for doing, custom quilts that have fussier details. Maybe you want to win a ribbon with one. Maybe it's an uber special anniversary gift. There's reasons for doing that. But in general, I feel like if you take a look around, there is a texture for almost every quilt. So have a look at my Pinterest board, if you will. And if you're surfing around through that and see some things that you like, if you're familiar with Pinterest, at the bottom of the screen, it will often give you a see more option. So you can surf around and find other people that are doing edge-to-edge designs and find their ideas on Pinterest as well. Another good place to look is at websites that sell pantographs, and you can look there for ideas. The difficulty with that is you can't see it kind of applied to a whole quilt. You're just seeing one small repeat, but it is still a great place for ideas if you want something swirly or if you want something geometric.
you can go there often and get ideas for textures to lay down. So I hope you have a great week quilting this week. I am working on a Tula Pink spool quilt. That's what I have loaded on Lucy this week. So as the week goes by, I'll show you pictures of that. It's a really, really fun and, of course, colorful project, being Tula fabrics. So I'll keep you updated with that, and I'll probably show them on Instagram, Facebook, those sorts of things. I'll just pop little photos in there for you. So hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that you get a chance to try out the chrysanthemum, and as always, post pictures if you can. Tag me. Either tag me Stitched by Susan or hashtag will work too. Hashtag Stitched by Susan, and I'll have a look at what you do. I'd love to see your quilting. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you Friday morning. Bye-bye for now.